Welcome to the Jimmy Star Show with Ron Russell, the illustrious television host of Profiles with Mickey Burns. Mickey Burns, hello and welcome to the show.
Jimmy, Ron, how you doing?
Absolutely.
I don't know if
fantastic.
I'm allowed to speak yet. Am I allowed to speak?
Sure. Well,
sir?
I was going to introduce you, but since he knows your name, it's okay.
Yeah, of course. Meanwhile, I listen. I know Mickey. I've heard of Mickey Burns. You know how many years ago? When I had a TV show here called Set the Record Straight, and I interviewed the legends of Hollywood: Jane Russell, Lauren Bacall, Tab Hunter, Cliff Roberts, and the list goes on, as you've done so many fabulous celebrities also. Yeah. And I knew that you were my competitor on the East Coast, but I had the West Coast and you had the East Coast. You've been on for like 20-something years or some
20 years,
shit?
I think.
How many years you on?
Yeah, we it's a labor of love. We love what they do, and they still let us do the show on the network, so we keep doing it.
There you go.
But you've been a hit for 20 years. That's a hell of a show, let me tell you. We're like into our my other show, so I've been interviewing for about 15 years. Now, what are we ready for? Tell me, direct me. Give me a fucking script.
We're going to direct you. Yeah. So first, Mickey, we got to say hi to some people. We want to start off with our lady. You can't see any of these people. You're only going to hear them. But we've got our engineer. She's in Wellington, Florida at the W4CY studios. Her name is Danielle. Danielle, say hi to Mickey.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the show.
I love the voice. Hello, Danielle.
Yeah, she's out to bang you. Trust me.
Then we've got our video engineer, and he is actually in Philadelphia. So say hi. We got Scotty J.
Scotty.
Yo, Mickey, what's going on, man?
How you doing? Yeah, important role. Keep it up.
Yes.
And on Thursdays, he might bang you too.
And then we have a chat room right now. We have England, Germany, the UK, Australia, Canada, the United States. I don't know, a bunch of places represented. Say hi to everybody in the chat room.
Pleasure to meet you.
Like you, 100. We have 100. We have 100. We have 178 countries that watch us and 5 million people. What's your score?
Well, we certainly don't have that kind of demographic, but what we have is the number one market and 20 million potential viewers in that market.
There you go.
You beat us by 15 million people.
Yeah.
Oh, you should
there's a lot of people living in the tri-state area.
Oh, you should only lose your voice for a week.
Oh, forget it. You're in trouble.
So also, Eileen Shapiro's in the chat room, so we want you to give a special say hello to Eileen because she's saying, yay, Mickey, hey, Mickey.
Let me say this about Eileen. You know, she's the premier celebrity publicist in the business, and she's been doing it like for 30 years. I love Eileen. What a job she does.
Yes.
She does a great job. She massages my back with her boobs. She does. And does she have a pair of boobs or what? Is that one got? She's got a set of knockers that could kill anybody.
And just so you know, Eileen is a great publicist, and her company is called World Star PR, of which I'm the other half of it.
Right. and Eileen is Eileen's like my sister. She's probably, I guess, one of my closest, dearest friends. Joan Rivers. Let's talk about Joan Rivers.
Sure.
Years ago in Manhattan Center, I did a show with Joan Rivers, and I was so excited when I heard Joan Rivers was doing the show. Now we're in the green room, and I meet Joan Rivers, and I met the most boring, introverted woman I have ever met in my life. She was just studying her lines and mumbling and talking. Every now and then she'd look up and acknowledge people. The moment she got on stage, my God, that personality bloomed. And there she was, Joan Rivers. How did you find her off camera?
Well, first off, I think a lot of people weren't aware of her intellect. She was extraordinarily intelligent. Graduated college first in her class. I think she graduated with a degree in anthropology. I mean, she was out there intellectually. But I found her to be honest, candid, warm, friendly. I can't say enough good things about her. I had her on the show twice, and both times they were great interviews, and she was very giving.
She was a typical New York Jew, perfect woman, funny as all hell. And when I told her I was Jewish, she said, "What? You're Jewish?" I said, "Well, only half Jewish." She said, "How do you be half Jewish?" I said, "Well, what do you mean? How do you be half Jewish? She said, well, how are you half Jewish? I said, my mother was a Catholic. My father was of Jewish descent.
Right.
She said, you're not Jewish. You're Catholic.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to argue with me? She said, no. And that was the end of that conversation. Because she believed that you are what your mother is, not your father.
Sure. And in the 500 or so episodes that I've done with Profiles, I ask the same question to every guest at the end. And that is, what do you hope your legacy will be? And Joan said, I slept with them all.
That was Joan.
So hold on, I'm gonna do some bragging for you real quick. First of all, you guys. So Mickey's done a ton of interviews, you guys, and I knew who everybody was, but I wrote down the ones who I really like a lot. So here's some of the fabulous people he's had the pleasure and opportunity of interviewing. Joan Rivers, like we just spoke about, Rich Little, Meatloaf, Stacy Keach, Joan Collins, which that would be a fun one.
Joan Collins, she has to be the bitch of the century.
Well,
was she?
Joan Collins looks great. I mean, she's her beauty and her personality has remained intact. She's kind of ageless, and I believe the day of the interview, she was there with her. I think her boyfriend, who was like 40 years younger. So she's
that's her boyfriend.
She's also a cougar.
Yes, how cool is that?
She's a cougar. You're not the one she walked off your show. Are you the guy that interviewed her?
No, we did fine. We had no problems with her.
Somebody interviewed her, I believe maybe in England, and they asked her a few questions she just wouldn't tolerate. And she said, you know what? I don't have to sit here and take this shit. Yeah. And she got up and walked off the set.
Wait, I haven't finished the bragging yet, though.
No, but we're going to do it. We're going to stop as you go along.
No, I want to go through the list, and then we'll go back. All right, so Joan Collins, Rutger Hauer, rest in peace. Tim Conway, Dick Cavett, Bruce Campbell, Mick Fleetwood. That's a huge one for me. Ben Gazzara, Jack Jones, Lorenzo Lamas.
Larry's a friend.
Mario Lopez, Melissa Manchester, Christopher Plummer, Smokey Robinson, John Cicada, Robert Wagner, Richard Belzer, John O'Hurley, which everybody thinks he looks like, and Ed Asner. And then I have a list, and I didn't go through everybody, but I went a list and made a list of the people that you interviewed that we also interviewed on our show.
Really? Okay.
So here's our duplicate list.
So what do you think? We do chopped liver here?
We've got Samantha Fox, Robert Davi, who I'm actually making a movie with right now.
He's a good cool. I love him.
Taylor Dane, Air Supply, Stephen Bishop, Laura Bell Bundy, Lita Ford, George Lamont Orleans, CeCe Peniston, BJ Thomas, Frank Vincent, Martha Wash, Mary Wilson, and Crystal Waters were the ones I saw on the list. Wow. So we have a bunch of them that we've overlapped, and they were all fun. We've had a good time. We have a good time with everybody.
Now, I'm asked a million times, and I'm sure you are also. Ron, who was the favorite person you ever interviewed? Now, you know you could chop your head off if you use those names because you're always going to hurt somebody's feelings. Right. So I say, well, probably Jane Russell because she was my best buddy, my dearest friend for years. Jane and I hung out together. We were like brother and sister. So, yes, I would have to say Jane Russell. And that interview was about, in 1940, Jane, tell me what size bra were you? And she said, a 36B, that's all. I was no cow. So they made her out to have these huge knockers in Hollywood, but she was really very small-chested. Wow. And that's how I get out of that question. Now I'm going to ask you that question. Yeah. Who is your favorite interview?
It's a tough question, as you know.
A lousy question.
But I like, the guests that I can leave telling stories about, that have something special that maybe didn't happen in the other 400 episodes. One comes to mind. Can you have a minute? I'll share this story.
Yes, no, we have a lot of minutes.
I think you'll enjoy it. We had Joe Montana, the NFL 4-time Super Bowl champion. Yeah, the best. So he was in New Jersey doing one of those conventions where memorabilia conventions.
Yes.
So they said, come to his hotel room, suite, and you set up, and he'll get there at 5:00 on the dot. You can do your interview for a half hour. Then he's off doing what he has to do at the memorabilia convention. So we arrived like at 3:00 for a 5:00 interview, setting up the lights as TV. It has to be done, and they put out a beautiful spread. And I said, man, television's great, isn't it? We get a spread. We get to talk to Joe Montana, and after we set up the lights, did the sound check, we had our dinner with salads and sandwiches. And then we're waiting for Joe at 5 o'clock. Joe shows up with his entourage of publicists and managers and all of that, exactly 5 o'clock. And the first thing that happened is, hi, Joe, how you doing? We're going to do the interview over here. And his manager says, Mickey, can I see you a second? So he takes me in the corner, and the first thing he says to me is, who ate Joe's dinner?
I guess Mickey did.
And I said, oh, it was like, like a little kid with my hand caught in the cookie jar.
Bad boy. My best story.
Wait, let him finish.
I'm sorry.
But now it doesn't end. So I said, Joe, I'm so sorry that my team ate your dinner. And he said, are you kidding me? I wouldn't eat that shit anyway.
Probably true.
And I'm going to an Italian restaurant after our interview.
Right.
So he said, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
My best story is Cliff Robertson was making Autumn Leaves with Joan Crawford.
Oh.
And I interviewed Cliff Robertson. And I said, Cliff, you're such a lily white, pure little Protestant. Don't you have like dirty stories or something you could tell me? He said, yeah, I've got a dirty story. Joan Crawford invited me to her house in Brentwood. I went up to the house, and Joan Crawford interviewed me in her bedroom in only a white terry cloth robe, laying on the bed with her legs in the air. And Joan was coming on to Cliff so hard, Cliff didn't know what to do. She wanted to bang Cliff Robertson. He was considerably younger than she. And, she was a cougar and a lesbian cougar, straight cougar. She didn't care what they were. And Cliff said, luckily, my girlfriend gave me a wristwatch that had an automatic timer on it. And the wristwatch went off. And he said, excuse me, Miss Crawford, but I've got to go. My wristwatch just told me so. And he left, a virgin. That's that story. And then my other one was with Arlene Dahl. I said to Arlene Dahl, Lana Turner was married to Lex Barker. Lex Barker was raping Lana Turner's daughter when she was 10 years old, Cheryl Crane, for over 2 years. Lana found out about it, pulled a gun, and went after Lex Barker. Lex Barker divorces Lana, marries Arlene Dahl. Arlene Dahl bangs on the arm of the sofa and says, Ron, that's a lie. Lex had a package so large, had he ever entered a 10-year-old, he would have killed her. So that's what they used as my commercial. So you see, California is a lot different than New York.
Hold on, let's go back for a second. Okay, so
I can share another story I think that you might enjoy when you're
ready. Go ahead and share, and then I want to tell people.
We're going to share name dropping stories because the audience loves this stuff.
Chuck Barris, another one of my favorite guests.
Chuck Barris. I met Chuck.
Chuck Barris. No one knows that he wrote Palisades Park, which became a big hit back in the 60s for Freddie Boom Boom Cannon. He said it was one of the biggest thrills of his life writing that song. But he was also trying to get into the television industry at the same time. So he said, I didn't know anyone. I had no connections.
Can I interrupt you? Was he the Gong Show guy?
He was.
Okay. Now we know who we're talking about. The Gong Show.
The Dating Game and the Newlywed Game.
Right.
He wrote not only the concept was his, but he also wrote the music for those shows. But before he became a big executive in Hollywood, he had to get his foot in the door. So he said a friend of his had told him one way to do it is to become an NBC page in New York. But he said, I don't know anyone. So he went to the library and he listed the 7 people on the board of directors at NBC as his references. And on my show, he said, they never checked.
Oh my God, they would
now. No, they wouldn't. They really wouldn't.
And he got the job as a page, and then he went on to be head of daytime television, I believe, at ABC.
But and then he died tragically, I understand.
No. He became an author after he got out of the television business, and he wrote like 7 novels that were highly successful. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, that was made into a film.
No, I had heard that he had a very rough last few years emotionally.
Yeah, well, he's married to a Southern belle, and I thought he was pretty happy down south. He lived in Bowling Green or one of those.
Yeah, it wasn't so happy. So I
want to segue. I want to segue though, because you just talked about how he wrote books, and I know that you have a book coming out. Tell us a little bit about your book.
I do. Before I get into the book, I just wanted to finish the Chuck Barris story.
Okay, go.
Okay? Because he did all the shows that he did, and when I asked him what he hoped his legacy would be, he said he wanted it written on his tombstone, "Gonged at last."
I like that show. It was stupid, but I enjoyed it. It was fun, the Gong Show.
Actually, the way you have that question.
He passed away a couple years ago, and I read in the New York Times, that is exactly what's on his tombstone.
Oh, I love it.
He got his wish.
The way that you ask what you want your legacy to be, when Ron had his show, it was called Set the Record Straight.
Yeah.
And that's what he would tell everybody. He would say, what's been said about you that's incorrect? Now you have a chance to correct it, so set the record straight.
I said to Betty Davis that very same, what has ever been said about you that's incorrect? And she said,
everything.
Darling, everything.
Yeah,
Thank you. So you knew Betty as well as I did. Betty Davis was also a friend of mine later on in years, when she was right before she passed away. Yeah. And I found her to be a dirty mouth, hard drinking Scotch lady with a cigarette. Wow. I mean, she was one tough broad, so far from the now Voyager elegant person that she played in films.
Jimmy, before you ask me about the book, which I do want to talk about for a second, I wanted to show you had asked me favorite guests that I've had.
Yes.
And one that just came to mind, that was Eli Wallach. I had
wonderful actor. Wonderful.
Ugly, yeah, he's wonderful.
Wonderful actor.
When he was like 95, 94, right before he did the last Wall Street movie.
Right.
So
brilliant.
After the movie, he said, Mickey, take a walk with me. So we finished the interview, and I'm walking up Broadway with Eli Wallach. That's a good day.
Yeah.
Right?
You betcha.
And he's carrying like I'm going to call it a Pathmark plastic bag from the supermarket. And I said to him, Mr. Wallach, what do you have in the bag? He said, a pair of shoes. That's where we're going. We're going to walk up Broadway. I'm going to the shoemaker. And I laughed and I said, but, like you're a millionaire. Why don't you just go to Macy's and buy like 10 new pair? Why do you need to repair old shoes? And he grabbed me by the wrist, stopped me in mid-stride, and he said, Mickey, I grew up in the Depression.
Right.
Back then, we didn't buy new. We fixed old, and I've never been able to shake that.
Right.
I said, wow, what a story.
I do the same thing.
I'll never forget that.
I do the same thing. I'll be 80 in May. I'm not a Depression baby, but I'm a war baby. And during the Second World War, we couldn't get rubber. We couldn't get leather. We couldn't get anything because of the war. So therefore, I was deprived. I love when they call me privileged, by the way. When they say I'm Ron Russell is so privileged, and my ass is privileged. We didn't even have coal to heat the house in the winter. It was so freezing in Brooklyn. Anyway, I would have asked
Brady, by the way.
Thank you. I would have asked Eli Wallach, tell me a little bit about Marilyn Monroe. I always ask Jane Russell about Marilyn.
Yeah, he did speak about her, talked about her in depth in the movie. He liked her very much.
Jane Russell also liked Marilyn. They did Gentlemen Prefer Blondes together. And I said to Jane, what do you think Marilyn's problem was? And she said she was abused, sexually raped as a child, thrown from house to house, and she was really very delicate. So Jane Russell said, why don't you go to my church of born-again Christians and possibly they can help you? And then the next day, Jane said to Marilyn, so how did it go? And Marilyn went, oh, no, it's not for me. It's just too religious. So Marilyn really was. Anyway, the one thing that Jane said negative about her was, and I'm shocked, was that Jane had to say to her, well, they were shooting 6 weeks of rehearsal of dancing in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. And at one point, Jane had to say, Marilyn, dear, please shower. So, that's something nobody likes to think of as Marilyn Monroe perspiring and smelling while she was dancing. They got along very well. That war that the press did about them hating each other and fighting, Jane said is bullshit. She said Marilyn was a little dove, a little scaredy cat girl, and Jane was Jane's a big tough broad, and she was Marilyn's protector. Yes. And when they were shooting a scene when Marilyn Monroe kisses one of the fellas on the ship, one of the camera people said to him, "What did it feel like when Marilyn Monroe kissed you?" And he said, "I felt like I was being swallowed alive." Marilyn heard that. She ran off the set crying. That's how sensitive she was.
Wow. Wow.
So wait, let's go to your book. Tell us about your book. I want to hear about because Eileen told me that you've got a book coming out.
Right. It's a memoir, and the book is called From the Projects to Profiles.
Oh, that's a good title.
What projects did you live in?
I lived in the South Beach projects, which is about a mile south of where the Verrazano Bridge stands today.
That was a low-income project.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
poor people lived there.
Yeah. Back in the day, we didn't have any money because my father, who fought in World War II, came back from the Philippines after the war, and now all these soldiers are in their late 20s, early 30s with no money and no job.
None.
No. So, and if you did get a job, they didn't have a lot of money. I mentioned in the book that no one in the projects ever went on vacation. Vacation for us as a family in the projects meant I'm off from work for a few days.
No, I agree with you. I never heard of people going on vacation in my neighborhood. They wouldn't leave the block. What are you kidding? They wouldn't even go to New York. Going to New York, you packed a lunch. Yes. To New York City, that is, from Brooklyn.
I have friends who send their kids to Mexico for Easter break and are 16 years old. And look, the closest I got to the Caribbean or Mexico back in those days was the world map in my bedroom, on my bedroom wall. That's just the way it was. But the same thing. In order to do well as a kid growing up in that environment, you did have to learn a certain amount of toughness, a certain amount of street smarts.
You better believe it, baby.
And I tell people, and I write in the book, the scene with John Travolta walking down the street with the paint can at the beginning.
That was me.
I said in the book, in my neighborhood, we all walk that way.
Absolutely. I still walk that way.
With attitude.
Listen. I think I'm loving you. Please send me an autographed copy of your book. I'm dying to read it. It's not out yet.
We're working on it.
When it's out, I will review it. I think it's going to be a fabulous book because for those of you listening, you have no idea what life was like in the 40s and 50s. The 1950s were probably the greatest years of American history. At 18 years old, my parents found out I was gay, and they sent me to Italy to go straight with my grandmother because they thought my grandmother could straighten me out. Meanwhile, the Italian men were the most wonderful men I had ever met. So they did me a favor. But 1950s, I had a convertible, and I used to park it in Manhattan with my sunglasses, and nobody stole the car or the sunglasses. Right. No parking meters. You could park anywhere. We used to hang out at a place called Gilday's in Woodside, Queens, and then we go next door to that White Castle hamburgeria, and for 25 cents, we got a hamburger and an orange drink. Those were the days. Drive-in movies, hiding your friends in the trunk so they didn't have to pay the $1.
That's the way it was.
I should let all the listeners and people who are watching know, too, because you guys are both from similar areas in New York. You're both from New York. He's from Brooklyn.
I'm older. I think I'm older than
you are older, but you're from Brooklyn. And where are you from again?
Staten Island.
I don't know. From there. Okay.
Think of the Verrazano Bridge.
That's it.
Knows where that is. Matter of fact, today we're speaking from offices that we produce profiles, which is, I'm going to guess, a half a mile from the Staten Island Ferry.
See, when he speaks, my ears sing because he's got the accent. He just said it. I love his words. He's speaking like he's really cultivated to clean it up a little bit. But I can hear your Staten Island, almost Brooklyn. Staten Island and Brooklyn sound the same, Everybody had a summer house in Staten Island from Brooklyn.
Ron, it's interesting because I went to college in Missouri.
Okay. And I went to college in Queens.
In Missouri. And when I first got there, I thought that everyone was different. And then I realized it was me that was different.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Peter said.
No, wait a minute. Every newscaster you hear, I fight with people. Out here where we live in Palm Springs, you've got such a New York accent. I said, no, you got a hick accent. I speak the original English, which is what the newscasters speak on TV. If you listen to newscasters, they don't say, it's real neat. What a hot day. They don't speak that way. So you have a perfect accent.
Yeah, I was. Thank you. But I was there a week, and the speech and drama teacher pulled me aside. And he said, I can fix you.
Oh, screw you, I would have told him.
How you going to do that? How you going to do that? He said, simple. We just have to pronounce your ERs and your THs. Because right now you're saying, instead of saying power, you're saying power. And instead of saying that, you're saying that. If we could fix the THs and the ERs, you're halfway home to get rid of the New York accent.
And I would have said to him, I could fix your FUCKYOU. I'm a New Yorker, baby. I will never lose my accent. If I think I'm losing it, I go home and I go to Brooklyn and I sit there with all the Guido Guineas and I say, okay, let's go. Let's talk. And they say, ask me about it. Tell me over there what's going on. And I'm so happy to hear it.
Wait a sec. So how did you go to school in Missouri? Like, how did you pick Missouri?
Why Missouri?
I'm a football scholar. I played football in high school.
Oh.
When I was our team on Staten Island had won the city championship, and I was a running back, and I received a full scholarship to Missouri Valley College.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
Okay, so you're like a big guy.
By your name, you're Irish.
I'm Irish and German.
Okay, because Burns is Irish. Or it could be German. Burns could also be German. But it depends on how you say it.
It was my mother's side was Muller, so that was German.
Right.
My mother was Irish. My mother was totally 100% German.
Tell me a little bit more about your book.
Oh, hang on one second. In the chat room, they want to know what's a Guido.
A Guido is a slang word for a low-class Italian who's usually a hood, and he speaks incorrectly, and he looks like John Travolta in the movie Saturday Night Live.
And Ron, add a lot of chains.
Chains and
you got
platform shoes, and we have the Brooklyn Bop. I walk. To this day, I mean, people make fun of how I walk. I can't help it. I walk with the Brooklyn Bop. We all did. I'm sure if I walked next to you in 2 minutes, the both of us would be walking the Brooklyn Bop.
In the book, I write about my Missouri experience as well. We say as a kid from the streets of New York in the Midwest, an education in itself. And I write, interestingly, the first week I was there, one of the professors said to me, I guess you're here to get degrees. And I said, of course, like everyone else. And he said, do you know what they stand for? And I said, I have no idea. He said, well, let me tell you. BS, which I eventually got, which is, what it's BS degree. It's a bachelor of science. But he said to me, you know what a BS degree stands for? I said, no. Bullshit, he said.
Yeah, bullshit. A bullshit degree.
Bullshit. He said, MS, which is a Master of Science. He said, MS stands for more shit.
More shit.
and he said, I know you aspire for a PhD. Do you know what that stands for? I said, no idea. He said, piled higher and deeper.
I can't wait to read your book. I cannot wait. I have about 12 books I have to read. I'm going to put you to the top of the list.
Right. So obviously the book talks about growing up as a kid in the projects. And then the only way I would have seen any college was through a scholarship, which I earned. Had a great 4 years out of Missouri. Interestingly, I went back in 2012 and I served as the commencement speaker at graduation. With 2,500 people in the football stadium, and it was 96 degrees and humid. And I remember the sweat was just running down my chest and through the cap and gown. And I said to the president, I said, if I go down,
I said, ta-da. I love that. You just did Staten Island. You said, I said, ta-da. I said, ta-da.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Ta-da.
President, to the
I
president.
love it. I love it. I love it.
And, she just said, if you go down, leave your notes and I'll finish your speech. But that was also a highlight of my life. And also, I worked for 3 months on preparing that commencement address. It's not easy because you want to be compelling, a little bit of humor thrown in, and you don't want to make a fool of yourself. So
right
now, listen. Staten Island was 80% Italian.
No more.
You must have had a hard time back then being Irish, because the Irish and the Italian did not get along.
I talk about this in my book, and you're so right, because when I was in the 4th grade, it was like 95% Italian, me and one other Polish kid. And for some reason, the teacher thought I was Italian, and she mistakenly called me Anthony. That's for Anthony. Anthony, she called. So I didn't even correct her for 3 months because I didn't want to be different. I mean, that's the way it was.
That's right. It was that way.
I didn't want to correct her. I'm Anthony. All right.
But we didn't have prejudice in my block. We had a black guy, and we had one black kid in our elementary school, and his name was Robert Taylor, by the way. And he was tall, and I was very tall. So we both played basketball together.
Right.
And I went to his house, I remember, in Brooklyn, and I met his mother, big fat Aunt Jemima type lady, wonderful person. Right away, sit down, we can make you chicken or whatever. And it dawned on me one day that he was black.
Oh, yeah.
Can you believe that stupidity of the day? We didn't see it for some reason.
No.
It wasn't like nowadays. I think today everybody's made the emphasis on prejudice that we have become prejudiced. But back in my day, I hung out with Manny Rivera, was a Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico, my dearest friend in the world. Yep. We didn't have that in Brooklyn. How about you in Staten Island?
I'm going to mention the guest back. We didn't have it in the projects either.
No, why is that?
We were all in the same boat. We were all in the same boat. And the one thing we all had in common was nobody had any money. So nobody was better than anybody else. But everyone appeared to be happy, and I think we were.
We were happy. Are you kidding? Are you serious? We would play crackers on the curb. We would open the fire hydrant and jump underneath to cool off. We would play stickball. We would go in the schoolyard, make out with our girlfriends. What are you, crazy? Those days were the best.
They were. And I have friends who give their kids $20,000 Sweet 16 birthday parties. $20,000. I
got friends better.
And I write in the book that, when, for graduations and birthdays, the best we got, and we were happy to get it, was a good hamburger at a nice hamburger place. That was a big treat, or a pizza. That was a big treat out.
Oh, pizza was a lot of money. 15 cents a slice.
Right.
So here, I want to move this conversation a little bit. First of all,
I'm loving it.
Because we don't have a ton of time, and I want to go over a couple.
Oh, you're my new best friend.
Number
one, you are. I'm coming to New York. We're having lunch, and we're going to have a ball. I'm serious. I'm not bullshitting you. I don't blow smoke. I'm serious. We're going to. No, you don't have to pay. We'll split the bill. We'll do it New York style. You pay yours, I pay mine. I don't want anybody.
So hang on, though. Okay, so hold on, everybody.
I'm serious. I think you and I really would hit it off. We've got so much to talk about.
This is Mickey Burns from Profiles of Mickey Burns, everybody. First of all, people who are in New York, how do they watch your show? Where do they go? What time is it? Give us some information.
That's a good question. It's called Profiles with Mickey Burns. It's been on for 20 years. It's on channel 25. In the tri-state area, which includes New Jersey, Connecticut, Long Island, upstate New York, and of course all 5 boroughs. It's on the NYC Media Network, channel 25. It's a great channel. I always said Oprah wish she had channel 25 when she was at 335 or something like that.
Are you on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Put yourself on YouTube so we could watch you out in California.
What we have on YouTube are 10-minute teasers of older interviews.
Put a full show on so we could see you. I'd love to see your show.
But
we're going to be going there.
We're coming to New York. I'm in a movie now. I think we're shooting it in. I don't know where we're shooting it, but I'm going to watch you. Matter of fact, I'm going to come in your studio and watch you live.
That would be great. But you can also go. You can also go and onto the network's website, which is NYC Media, and then. You can go to television.
Too sophisticated for me.
And all the shows.
I don't know how to do that.
Everybody else
all the shows are listed there, and you hit Profiles, and I think they post our last 10 shows.
There you go.
I want to see your Joan Collins show because there's a chance.
You got to go to YouTube. It should be there.
There's a chance I could have had Joan Collins on Set the Record. And I was advised not to. They said your personality and her personality are identical. And we're both Geminis.
So we'll try to get her. I can get her.
And I think that.
So hold on. Okay, let me. I
saw her at lunch one day, here in L.A., and she was breathtakingly gorgeous. I've got to tell you, she was she was about 60. I think so. I think I'd like to interview Joan Collins.
Okay, so hold on. So first of all, because everybody in the chat room is asking about the book, we don't know when the book's coming out yet, right?
The book should be out the first of the year.
All right, everybody.
And the title again is
From the Projects to Profiles, a memoir by
I love it. I love the title, From the Projects. Nobody mentions projects anymore. Did you know that I was born? Wait, one thing I'm going to tell them. Do you know where I was born? I was born in the Red Hook Projects, my friend.
I know well.
Top floor. Okay.
We're blood brothers.
Yes, 1940. I was born in 1940. Top floor of the Red Hook Projects on Columbia Street. 40. I almost remember my address. 40 something Columbia Street.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that Eileen Shapiro, the publicist, the celebrity publicist, will be doing publicity for the book, and will be published by New Haven Publishing, they're out of England.
Yes.
Well, I intend to push it to the max because it's a history that I don't want forgotten or lost. And everybody's asking me to write a book, and I really should, because I've been in the business 58 years and I've met everybody probably in the business. It would be a name-dropping book about the people that I know. But I always say, listen, if I were a plumber and I went to a party and I said, I just finished doing Joe Blow's house, his toilet, nobody would think anything of it. But if I say I just got back from lunch with Jane Russell, they go, oh, name dropping. Yeah. So I don't get it.
And I did want to mention that the last chapter is called The Legacy Question, because I had mentioned to you, last question in every interview is, what do you hope your legacy will be? We went back into the archives and pulled that answer from 500 episodes, and that's the last chapter. So we have Joan Collins' legacy, we have Joan Rivers, George Foreman.
Clever. Very interesting. Good.
And they're all there, and it's really inspiring, funny, heartwarming, all of that.
That's a very smart thing. I cannot wait. When is your book coming out?
In January. Let me talk, please.
I'll let you.
Hey,
talk.
everybody! So listen up. So the book's going to be coming out in January. We'll have Mickey come back when the book actually comes out, so that way we can help promote it. Let's ask you a bucket list question. So you've interviewed, hundreds and hundreds of huge celebrities. Who's on your bucket list? Give me like a male and a female that you have not had a chance.
It's a great question. And again, in my book, I put down. I always have a list on my next to my desk, the top 5 people that I aspire to get on the show. Right on top is Tom Jones.
Oh my God, that's mine too.
I just had Engelbert Humperdinck on the show.
You gotta be kidding.
Fabulous. Engelbert, can I tell you an Engelbert Humperdinck story?
Yes.
I said to Engelbert, in your biography, you wrote that you made love to 3,000 women. I said, is that accurate? He says, Mickey, let me put it to you this way. Less work for my wife.
Tom Jones would be at the top of is one of the top of mine.
I can't believe Tom Jones. I mean, really and truly, he was such a nobody.
Wait, keep going. Who else?
Pete Rose, which I believe I'm going to be able to schedule in September, because I want to talk about the Hall of Fame dilemma.
Yes.
Raquel Welch.
Uh-oh, beware.
She turned us down.
Tough broad. I know Raquel. Tough. Watch it.
Beautiful.
Watch it.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Intelligent.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know
that. And very quick to cut.
Yes, but she's on the list. And Tom Hanks, because
sweetheart of a man.
Yes,
absolutely.
And Robert Wagner had been on it, and then we just had him on last year. What a sweet guy he was.
Yeah, RJ is cool. I like him a lot. We used to we used to eat in the same restaurant on Thursdays.
I did. Tom Jones is the only one that because I want Charlize Theron and I want and like he doesn't know why, but like for me, Molly Ringwald is like a big deal. I want Molly Ringwald.
Do you have time for me to tell you a Tom Jones story?
Yes.
1980, I'm with Tom Jones backstage. I was working for Channel 5 News, and he gave us tickets in the front row. And right next to me is his girlfriend. And all during because people used to say, you resemble Tom Jones. And during the...
You do not. You
No,
better.
this is when I was younger. I'm going back 1980.
Tom Jones looks like shit now. You look good.
Thank you. But his girlfriend kept flirting with me. And I said to Bill McCreary, who was sitting next to me, I feel very uncomfortable because, that she's flirting. I felt uncomfortable about it. And so I said, I got to ask her. I said, why, you're Tom's girl. Why are you flirting with me? And she said, yeah, I'm Tom Jones's girlfriend this weekend.
Oh.
Well,
I love
I
it.
was a little slow on the, Ron, I know that's a tough one. But
no comment.
I know you'll get it eventually.
I got it, but I'm not a fan of Tom Jones because
I am a huge fan.
I won't go into it, but someone I know very well was very close to Tom Jones. So I know who Tom Jones really is in his real life. And I'm not too thrilled about his outlook of certain people.
Okay.
There you go.
But he's on my list.
That's good. I think it's good.
Find out what he thinks of gay people.
Okay. All right. I'll find out.
So you guys, this is Mickey
You know who
Burns.
I want on my list?
Who?
I made a film with her, 1959, Sophia Loren. I would love to see Sophia again, and I'm going to try to contact her to have her on our show.
And beautiful.
It's been 50-something years since we kissed, and she kissed me on the cheek goodbye. I'm Italian. I speak Italian fluently.
Yes.
She was 26 years old. Her English was very poor.
Yes.
So on the set, I was a soldier. They used to tell me, get away from her. You're not allowed to go near Tab Hunter, who I was in love with, who became my buddy years later. Tab and I were best of friends.
Yes.
And I would love to see Sophia again.
All right. So we're out of time real quick.
Would you get
Sophia? We got to go.
Wait, are you going to get Sophia on your show?
I would love to, but I don't even know if she's in the United States right now.
It doesn't matter. We could Skype. We have Skype.
Oh, he's live. He's live.
Well, so we're live also.
No, he's live. I mean, he's not live. He's in a studio. You have to go in the studio.
You tape?
Yes.
We tape in studio. Yes.
So you could tape it. You could Skype tape it.
We've been studioing it, and that's the way I think we're going to continue.
All right, you got good 20 years success. I'm not going to talk about.
So here's what we're going to do, everybody.
To say?
Okay, so you guys make sure to turn into profiles with Mickey Burns. He's on social media, but he doesn't really do it. You need to get back on your Twitter and stuff.
Yes. I do Facebook and I do Instagram somewhat. But
somewhat.
You're right. I kind of got off of Twitter.
And then here's the next thing. Then, so before we say goodbye, we want to ask one last question, and then we're going to steal it from your playbook. So, what do you want your legacy to be?
See, now you're turning the tables on me.
That's a smart question.
I think that after our 500 episodes, that in some respect we've entertained people, in some respect we educated people, but most importantly, we hope that through our broadcast that we've made some people better. That's my legacy.
I've interviewed over 4,000 people, celebrities. Okay, it's true in my 58 years, and I would say that my legacy would be to my audience. I hope I made you happy, and I hope I made you laugh, because that's what it's all about. Yes. It's not about money, that's for sure.
Well, both Ron and Jimmy, you're doing a wonderful job, and I wish
thank you.
So success in what you do. It's very important.
Yeah, we're successful, and I don't understand why. Sometimes I say, Jimmy, I don't get it, but yeah, we were the #1 media show, web show in the world, and that's quite an honor.
I think you both have a knack for bringing out the best in people.
Well, you know what it is? You know what it is? I tell all of our guests, I didn't have to tell you, pretend you're in Brooklyn in my kitchen and we're having Entenmann crumb cake and coffee, and we're just bullshitting. That's the success to our show. We're not an interview show or a conversation show. We interrupt, we talk back and forth. Yeah. So our audiences feel like they're visiting with us. Everyone out there tells me that. I felt like I was visiting with you and your guest. So that's our success. And yours is you're brilliant, and you're in your New York, my dear, and you're on television. I hate your guts. I mean, my thrill would be to be in New York live on television, Yeah, coming out of New York, I miss my New York so much. Palm Springs is wonderful. I love the swimming and the weather and driving my convertible. But I miss my dirty New York, the smell of taxi cabs, people pushing, saying, go fuck yourself. I mean, the subway getting felt up by other homos. I loved it.
So, Mickey, we want to thank you for coming on the show. When the book comes out, we'll definitely have you come back.
Absolutely.
And we wish you continued success with getting your top 5.
You're a sweetheart.
We hope you get them all.
How could he not have success?
And anytime you need anything, let us know. We'll help cross-promote any way we can.
You're a mensch.
I've enjoyed it immensely. Thank you so much.
True.
Thank you.
And we're having lunch, and don't bullshit me, because I'll tell everybody on the air, you're full of shit. You never met me for lunch. I'll ruin you. I'll disgrace you.
You got a day, Ron.
All right, Mickey. Thanks so much.
See you soon, baby.
Bye-bye.
What a pleasure.